again, please.
District 1, Barbara McQuinn.
Here.
District 2, Chuck Shaw. District 3, Karen Brill. District 4, Erica Whitfield.
Here.
District 5, Frank Barbieri.
Here.
District 6, Marcia Andrews.
Here.
District 7, Deborah Robinson.
All right, we have, the agenda item is recommend the board review the timeline and discuss and take needed action as needed regarding the recruitment and search for the new Inspector General. The subject to be addressed this evening with anything else the board wants to add. Discussion of characteristics, input from board and audit committee surveys, discussion and shortlisting of candidates, and discussion of timeline and next steps, including interview question development process. So at this point, ma'am.
Yep. I'm Gail Williams, Director of Administrative and Non-Instructional Staffing.
Dr. Mary Fossbender with Ray & Associates. Thank you very much for the opportunity. Just real quickly, I'll give you a little bit of background on myself. I've been with Ray & Associates for a little over 10 years now. I'm the Midwest Regional Director for them. I'm a former retired superintendent. This is important work, and I'm pleased that you're asking for our guidance in it. With regard to the items that you have before you with discussion of the characteristics that I handed out this evening, those were as a result of input that was received from both the board and from the audit committee. They were based, a lot of the questions on the survey were based on the job description, which I'm sure most of you are familiar with. And in reading that, there are a number of criteria that you have placed in that. And so it's important to factor that into how you all feel about those things, and also try to stay as true as possible to that with regard to the pool. Do you have any questions regarding the survey itself?
I have an initial question. So the board had added a number 2 on the qualifications. The board said the Inspector General shall hold at appointment a current certification as a certified Inspector General. That originally said, or the person that we picked had 18 months to get that qualification. We removed that. So at this point, at the time of appointment, the individuals must have a certified Inspector General. That is not something we can waive this evening. That's the way it was advertised. So of the 7 candidates that you've brought to us, will all 7 of them have a certified Inspector General designation if they get the job by the time they're appointed by the school board?
They won't all 7 have that, no.
Well, then they're not qualified to even be considered this evening, in my opinion, because that was not preferred. It was a requirement that the board put in there that they must be certified at the time that they're at the time of appointment. So I don't understand how we can even consider those at this point. So your guidance on this?
Well, typically, yeah, we certainly wanted to adhere to that, and we did that in the screening. We had 18 people that completed their applications, and we had 9 that we vetted, and 2 of those we removed from consideration. Many times when we're working with a deliberative body such as a board, I did not know that history of the 18-month having been pulled. That was not something that we were made aware of. But many times boards will say they have to have it by X number of months from the time that they are appointed. And 18, I think, is pretty excessive. But if you're telling us that that's not something that you want to consider at the start date, having a grace period, then we will proceed accordingly to let you know which candidates of the 7 do not have that well, they don't have it now, and presumably they would have to get it by then.
Well, General Counsel.
Thank you. So we had sent out a memo as concerns the survey, which provided guidance to the board as well as HR, and I believe this was provided to the search company to stick with the requirements of the job description. The job description was indeed, we verified this, changed in December by vote of the board, and those are qualifications that were required qualifications. So I would advise the board to stick with your advertised job description, and waiver of that would certainly compromise the process.
And again, just to clarify, you're saying by the time the person begins the position, July 1?
Yes, right? That's what it said. It said by
It
the,
says by, at appointment, so whenever the board, so I would advise that whenever the appointment was, so if it came forward on June 1st for a contract, that would be the time of appointment. If it came forward at April 1st for a contract, that would be the time of appointment. But I don't know how one gets from here to there to get the certification. I'm not familiar with the requirements of
Dr. Robinson and Mrs. Andrews?
Yeah, I'm pretty concerned. When I looked at the packet, I felt that we got the surveys late. By the time we were doing the surveys, I think I had the pony to my home by the courier. And I don't know if you had seen my survey results. I see these numbers here, but those people had already been screened by the time I guess you got my survey. So I was a little disappointed that we didn't get the survey on the front end, so that when you actually screened all of these people, and I saw the ones that you screened out, and many of them really didn't meet the criteria. But I'm looking at this packet, and I'm worried about those that you've screened in, especially those that don't have the IG certification. But I'm concerned that right here in our building, in our own IG office, we have many people that have that IG certification. As I looked at the folks that we have here, I was concerned about their references because it looks like they're on the move, that they have not been in that IG spot for maybe over a year or two, learning their jobs. I looked at one that was actually getting ready to be evaluated in June, and now I'm looking at him or her to be the IG here, and I don't know about their performance. So as I look at all these numbers, I'm worried that I could very well be talking to someone who may not be operating in good stay in the IG position where they are. So I'm really nervous about moving forward until we can get clarity. And one last thing, I just want to know if Ray and Associates spoke to anybody in this building. I know we have one local candidate, and I guess they saw the advertisement. But now that we see that most of the candidates were screened out, and this is a weak, sort of a weak group that we have here, you know, as far as IG experience and even with IG certification, I'm worried about all the folks that sit upstairs that have already done more than some of the folks that we have here in this packet.
Dr. Robinson?
I'm sorry. Could I reply at all?
Yes, go ahead, go ahead.
It was our intention, or my intention, to be able to go through the candidates and highlight the experience they have. Actually, we did use that input, and well, as I said, we had 9 people, and we narrowed it down to 2 based on some of those preferences. So that was a determining factor as well. And you're right that some of the people that were of that 18 did not fill the bill at all. So that's why they were eliminated early on.
Mrs. Andrews?
And I'm worried that if I'm actually rating somebody, when am I going to see their performance, their references, based on their work performance where they are now? As I looked at the people that you screened in, those folks had not been in their jobs that long, so they're sitting in maybe new positions as IG. I don't know how they're doing right now. When are we going to get that information before we make some decisions about who we may want to interview?
Mrs. Rico, before I call in the other board members, you wanted to?
Yes, I just wanted to take a moment to kind of set the stage in terms of what I think we're looking at in terms of the survey. And it's the first item on your agenda. My recommendation to the board would be, since these survey characteristics are embedded in, or should be all found within the 4 corners of the job description, the characteristics and where they rate, et cetera, should be discussion items and, you know, informational for you guys, but doesn't change the job description. And I don't know that they would have ranked that's for you to all use this to rank your candidates. I'm not sure that survey was intended for them to rank the candidates. And I think that's the order in which the steps were done, I believe. So, but the survey issue, the survey information is informational to the board, okay, and not binding in any way.
Okay. Dr. Robinson?
Thank you. So I must say, I'm concerned and, at this point, disappointed thus far in this process. So I know that I wanted us to have conversation as a collective about the candidates, but I never expected that we were going to be asked to rank the characteristics that are outlined in the job description. So in my world, my expectation is that things that are listed under qualifications is like yes or no, you have them or not. And if you don't have them, then you're not considered, right? So I'm having trouble understanding how some of the folks who are not IGs, not certified IGs, got put in the pile, so to speak, right? I guess we'll get that clarified today. But I personally don't see any need for us to have a conversation around these characteristics because as one of, I think the audit committee chair said, all of them should be one. Because by our job description, you have to have all those characteristics. I mean, it's not one, it's more. We said here that you must meet these bullet points. And so why would we rank them? You must have them, right? So it's not working for me. Okay, so, all right, so I'm gonna be done with that part now. I'll have other comments as we move forward, but as far as I'm concerned, this ranking is a waste and we can move on.
Ms. Brill?
Thank you. So I agree with Dr. Robinson on the ranking, but I have to say that I disagree with Mrs. Andrews on the quality of the candidates. I actually, maybe I don't know, I'm existing in a different plane, but I was impressed with them. I didn't really, I don't remember in the job description if they had, the timing for the certification. So I thought maybe if those that didn't have it could have it by a certain date. But I do find that there are some qualified candidates here. So, I don't know how many we need. I've been very impressed with a few of them. So I just wanted to put that out there that I didn't think that those were poor choices. As I went through it, I pulled out the ones I didn't think were going to be the right fit for us and the ones that I thought would be. But the characteristics that I wasn't even sure that was the survey you were talking about. I mean, I don't think we really need that. We just need them to meet the criteria. And I think that if we go through it, we'll be able to see, and we need to find out if they're not certified, how long does that take, that process? Because if they've been in IG for a while, it might not take that long.
And I apologize, that was just given to me as the number one agenda item was to discuss the survey, but I agree with you. I think that was informational for you, and it certainly parallels the job description. So if you're in favor, we can move on, and I'll review the candidates.
Yeah, if you could you just tell us, of the 7 that you've brought to us, how many of them currently have the certifications as an inspector general? Because it's unclear with the packet that you gave us. I mean, it's hard to tell. Some of them say that they were assistant inspector general, for example, in some other jurisdiction. But do we just? I don't want to assume that if they were an assistant inspector general somewhere, that they are a certified inspector general. So can you tell us which of these 7 or how many of the 7 actually have the?
That was going to be my next step, was go through the candidates and give you exactly that, if that pleases the board. I was going to give you a executive summary of the candidates, different than what you saw with their very long application,
Okay.
and where they sit in terms of their experience, which is a requirement in the job description, and where they sit with regard to their certifications.
Okay, Mrs. Andrews?
And I agree. If I were just looking at the packet and not looking at references, there look like some viable people in here, even though it looks like they have not been in their jobs for a while. When will the reference point come into play based on job performance? I saw one candidate in the packet that had quite a few references, but I really want to know about these people and how well they're doing. I don't want someone coming here, even though they may have been, all these things are great in the job description, they meet all of this, and then we find out, they're on the verge of maybe being fired or some other issue that they're having that we don't know anything about. So as the headhunter here doing this for us, when are we going to get this information? Because we can screen all this down and all of a sudden we get some additional information. We may end up with very little of nothing. So when is that happening?
Can I explain the process a little bit with the response to her question, and then go to Mrs. McQuinn?
Yes.
Okay, I was going to say, could we please hear from our consultant, make a note of our questions, and then come back. Helps to hear the whole lecture before we ask the questions.
Well, except that there's no sense discussing any candidate that's here tonight in your 7 that don't meet the qualifications that the board advertised for. So there's no sense in giving us the information unless you tell us that that person who is not a certified inspector general will be a certified inspector general by May 1st or June 1st or whatever date this board picks to replace him, because it's senseless to talk about somebody that is not qualified for the position, because we made it clear that that was a qualification they must have in order to be considered for this position. So you can screen those out right from the beginning. Unless I'm wrong here, General Counsel, we shouldn't be considering anybody that doesn't meet those qualifications, correct?
The job description indicates that they have to have the certification by the date of appointment. So that leaves to question, when is this exam given? Can somebody who today has no exam credential get that credential by the time that they're ready to sign a contract, knowing that the time frame is through March, I think, mid-March, to select and then go to contract, and however long that takes.
Due to that very thing, we took the approach that if these individuals indicated that they had a willingness to take it and were qualified, just hadn't taken the exam, we should include them in the group, because we didn't want to discriminate, leaving them out because they could have it by the time you're going to appoint them.
Okay, so we don't know what that time period is. I mean, if the test is only given twice a year, maybe they wouldn't be able to. I wish Mr. Chu was still here, because he probably could fill us in on, is he back there? Mr. Chu, could you just tell us to get the certification as an inspector general, do you take a test, and is that test given like monthly, so there's an opportunity for these people to get that certification?
There are requirements for a candidate to sit for the exam. You have to work for an IG office for at least 1 year. And then if you're at the administrative level, you could sit for the IG, of course, certification, they call it AIG. And then now the question is, they only give the exam twice a year, in November and in March. If you are an investigator, you can sit for IG investigator. If you are an auditor, you can sit for IG auditor. But if you are not working in the IG office, you don't allow to sit in. So that means it creates some difficulty. There are another big population of qualified candidates out there who are not working for the IG shop, but they are performing similar to the IG shop, doing audit and investigation. So when I heard the recommendation from the board to add the IG as a requirement, I thought it's a good idea. You could have a CPA, CIA, or IG. But I didn't know that at the time that the requirement for IG is a must. That means if I thought that we have CPA, CIA, and CIG, that we broaden the population, that is a good chance we're going to have some good candidates. Now that if we require candidates must to have IG, even we talk to somebody who is qualified, who passed the interview, but if they are not working for the IG shop, they are not allowed to sit for the seminar and take the test. So they will not get it. So that means the 18 months is actually a good idea to get somebody who are not one, but will get one within 18 months. You need to take 18 months because you need to work for the IG shop for 1 year, which is 12 months. If you miss the November or March exam, then you have to find one. So that would take easily 18 months.
So let me ask you a question. Since if you were gone and we took one of these people and they have to work in an IG office for a year, the fact that they're working in an IG office with no IG would give them the qualifications to sit for the exam?
Correct. Either in March or November.
Okay.
Because we have staff who haven't been there for 1 year. They don't allow us to sit for the exam, either investigator, auditor, or inspector general.
Okay. All right, so as Ms. McQuinn said, if you want to go through the candidates that qualify based on what we advertise, please do that.
I will do my very best to try to be clear, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have about it as well. The first person I'm doing is William Stern. You may have these in different order, so I apologize. I'll give you a second to get it up. He has more than enough experience, 20 years with the FBI. He's also works in the IRS department for 6 years. He's got all of the certifications, and he's about to get a second one where he mentions that he's international security. He's about to get that one as well from his Harvard studies. He believes that would happen in the spring of this year. He is currently the Inspector General in Los Angeles Unified School District. He's probably the most qualified candidate of all of them that are in the group. The next one that has all the qualifications is Ali Riyad. He has 11 years of experience, and he has the certification, including the CPA and the IG.
Mr. Barbier?
Ms. Brill?
I looked through it, and am I missing something? I didn't see the IG certification.
The Inspector General?
Yeah, that's the one, I had marked him, I pulled him as somebody positive, but I don't see that as I look at it.
Dr. Robinson?
So this candidate is a certified Inspector General Auditor, so I became honestly confused as we went along, because that's different than the certified IG, right? And so would a certified Inspector General Auditor then take a step up and be a certified IG?
You have to be in the administrative position, a manager position, in order to sit for a certified Inspector General exam.
Right, but I guess what I'm asking is the certified Inspector General, okay, maybe this is legal. So based on our job description, with somebody who is not listed as a certified Inspector General, but is listed as a certified Inspector General Auditor, qualify?
No.
But they're eligible to sit for the exam, correct?
No. If you are an auditor, you can sit for the exam to get the CIG auditor. If you are at the administrative managerial position in an IG shop, you can sit for the certified Inspector General certification, which there are 3 certificates. One is CIG auditor, CIG investigator, and CIG.
Ms. McQuinn?
I had the same question when I read that. I actually had a question mark, were they the same, certified IG or certified IG auditor? So if a candidate is an IG auditor and works in the Office of Inspector General, is that person qualified according to our criteria?
To sit for the exam, you're saying?
Yes. Yeah, qualified to sit for the exam.
Our understanding was yes.
No. Like I said, if you are an auditor in the IG shop, then you are qualified to sit for the CIG auditor certification. If you are an investigator in the IG shop, you are qualified to sit for the CIG investigator certification. But if you are in the managerial position, like at least deputy manager, supervisor, then they will allow you to sit for the certified Inspector General certification. So the certified Inspector General is just like the term for this group. But under that, we have 3 different types: auditor, investigator, and Inspector General.
Let me get clarity from the General Counsel.
I'm not quite sure if this is clarity, but I'm just going to apply a little bit of, try to have some common sense here. I think the persons who know whether they're going to be able to demonstrate to this board that they will have the qualifications required into this job description would be the candidates themselves. They need to demonstrate I would suggest they need to demonstrate that whatever it is in their background and whenever the test is and however they get it, that by the time this board is ready to make a decision in April or whatever time window we're looking at, that they will have the proper credential and I think that's for the team here to determine. That's how I would, because we can't decipher what's in somebody's background and not from what we have here. We're not the board of qualifiers. So I would just say that would be one common sense way to try to address it.
And some people mentioned that in their cover letter as well, that they were cognizant of the requirements.
Dr. Robinson?
So I want to go back to listening to how you evaluated people, but I just need to close this loop in my brain. So to Mr. Chu, if you are a certified IG auditor and you've been working in an IG's office for a year, can you sit for the exam?
Not for the IG exam.
What else do you have to do?
If you're an auditor, then you have to be in a managerial position, to be a supervisor, manager
Okay.
at the higher level. If you want, I could go upstairs get some of the certificate for my staff award. They are three different certificates. These are three different certificates.
No, I understand. So, because, I mean, I wish this had been like laid out for us ahead of time, but, okay, so let me just add. So if you're a certified IG auditor and you've been working in a managerial position in an IG's office for a year, you can sit for the exam.
That I don't know. I'm not sure because I didn't have to go through the process. But my staff, there are certain number of years of requirement to sit for the CIG.
Okay.
That part I don't know because most of my staff, including myself, will way more than they require. So I didn't
Right.
really look into that.
So let me suggest something. I don't think we're going to be able to resolve any of this tonight because we don't know what the qualifications are. So we either have to change the qualifications and re-advertise, or we got to get to these 7 people that you've shortlisted for us and ask them if they take the job on June 1st for the Palm Beach County School Board, are they going to be certified inspector general? Will they have that designation at the time that they begin their work? If they tell us that that's not possible, then we can't even consider them. Correct? General Counsel saying
May I
yes.
ask a question, Mr. Barbieri?
Go ahead, Mr. Whitfield.
I just wanted to ask Mr. Chu, I'm assuming that when he started, he was not certified. I'm also looking at some of these other candidates, and they are currently inspector generals, but I guess they don't have the certification. So can you serve as an inspector general and not be certified and still be a quality person? Just a curious question for him.
Well, if the job description, if a requirement require the CIG, then that person must have a CIG. But having, let's put it this way, there are other groups that can do the job without having the certification. But if they are working for the IG shop after a year, then they could get their certification. So that means if they were never working for the IG shop, that means they would never be able to certify.
I think she's asking, could they do the job whether they were certified or not? I thought that was her question.
Well,
The answer is yes.
well, yeah, of course, yeah. Well, I did a job without a CIG at the time.
But the issue is the job description.
Yeah, that's the issue. I mean, they might be able, Mr. Chu served as in that position until he got it, but our qualifications at advertised said they had to have it. So it's not a question of can somebody do it and get it later. That's not what we advertised. The board specifically took that off of the qualifications. Mr. Shaw, you've been waiting patiently.
You know, I think where we are is that there's not a person sitting in this room that 4 or 5 or 6, whatever number of years ago it was, that we put this as an issue in the job description, had ever heard of an IG auditor, an IG investigator, an IG this based upon administration. So I think the truth is, no matter what else we say, we're doing the disservice to every one of these applicants if we screen them out because we didn't have the information. To find it out tonight, I find offensive, and I just don't think we should get into this. I think we need to do our job and hire somebody, find out who's the best candidate, and move forward, because we can sit here for the next 3 hours, and we're not changing anything if there are 3 different categories, And they have it or don't have it is just, they either have it or don't. There's nothing else. We're just
The problem,
around in circles.
with all respect, Mr. Shaw, the problem is we advertise this. There might be 1,000 more people that would have applied for this position, as Mr. Chu said, that are qualified, but if we would have said they have 18 months to get their Inspector General certification, they would have applied for the job. And now we've cut all those people out.
Mr. Barbieri, that's not the point. The point was, when we created this job description, there's nobody sitting up here that had ever heard of an IG auditor, an IG investigator, or an IG. We created that job description thinking there was one thing. And now tonight, we're finding out there are 3 things. So we can't even look at what we put in that requirement, because to me, if somebody's got any one of those 3, they have the IG certification that makes them eligible.
General Counsel, please clarify whether or not we can go ahead and consider people that don't meet the qualifications as advertised.
Okay. I think that, number 1, you have to stick with your advertised job description. Number 2, you have to find out whether, or you need to determine whether any of these current candidates, you have 2 choices. Determine whether any of these current candidates can meet the job description come whatever drop-dead date you want to establish, April 1st, June 1st, whenever you're going to contract. Or, as Mr. Barbieri said, throw the whole process out, work on the job description, start all over again. Okay, so those are your options. I'm just looking at the timeline to determine if with option 1, which is get some intel on what these 7 or however many our candidates can do to make themselves, camera ready to meet this job description, and come back on another day that doesn't impact negatively your timeline, like next week have another board meeting or come back on March 4th or whatever. But those are your 2 options.
Mrs. Andrews, then Ms. Brill.
Thank you, and I really do want to make sure we get it right. We don't want to just start going through this. I saw a few people with the IG certification. We got a few in here. I'm still worried about, when I looked in the packet, I saw one candidate that had references and the others did not. So I don't know if that's something we've asked for. I'm still on that, because even when we get it all together and we begin to screen people in for the interview and something else comes up, we may end up with maybe 1 or 2 people that really qualify because of some other kind of experience. So I would like to see us, we have Mr. Chu here for the extended amount of time. Let's get it right. And I'd rather put it out there the way we truly want it out there, so that people that apply can really understand what they're applying for.
I think your counsel has a very valid point, just because it's our knowledge that there are 2 other IG national searches going on with very large districts right now, one of which is nearby Atlanta. So if you prolong this too far out, then your pool could be affected by them having a pool of candidates as well. Just that's the cautionary thing. So if there's an opportunity to reach an agreement that you want us to take one of her 2 options and pursue it, then we will gladly do that.
Mrs. Whitfield, was that you trying to talk? I know, Ms. Brill, you wanted to. Let me see. No?
I did, but I can wait my turn whenever it is.
No, go ahead, Mrs. Whitfield.
Thank you. So just 2 questions. One, I wanted to know how many of the candidates actually did fit what we currently have as our requirements for having the certification, and who those people were. And I was also, I do agree with Mrs. Andrews that we should do this correctly, even if it does take a little bit more time. I don't want to mess up. If we can, I would love if we do end up having more time for this. I felt like the candidate files were not detailed enough. I would love to have understood how they were vetted. I kind of could guess the vetting procedures from who rose to the top, but I felt like it would have been nice if we could have, seen that kind of written out a little bit more, or understand Ray and Associates' justifications for why they chose certain people and put them in the packet. I think that would be really helpful.
Ms. Brill, then then Dr. Robinson.
I just wanted to revert back to what Mr. Shaw said, in not understanding that there are 3 different certified inspector general classifications. And now, I was focused on the audit piece and that person we were just talking about. But my question for my colleagues is, if they have one of those three, I would say we should just consider them as qualified, and then they can go to the higher level when they're in that office. So if you agree, I think that's how we should proceed.
Dr.
Wait a
Robinson?
minute, you can't just change the job
Thank you.
description.
So philosophically, I agree with you. I don't know, but I suspect that might create a problem with us being in conflict with our job description. But what I want to suggest, because let me tell you, I went to the audit committee meeting last week expecting to hear the audit committee share their wisdom around these candidates, right? And that did not happen. I was bitterly disappointed about that. The audit committee chair specifically stated that he had hoped that they would have the opportunity to have a special meeting so that they could have that deliberative conversation as our audit representatives. So I'm going to suggest that we postpone this for 2 weeks. I think that there's cushion time in the timeline, that gives Ray and Associates, I think we need to have some conversations about our expectations from Ray and Associates, but it would definitely include going back to each of the candidates and saying, in writing, can you meet this qualification to be a certified IG by June 1st? And 2, please submit all your references. And then all that can go to audit committee. They can deliberate, and then we have the conversation again. I really need substantive input from the audit committee. So, I appreciate the comments that they've made on this, but I need to hear more of their thinking around these candidates.
On that point, Dr. Robinson, I heard some of the audit committee members, because I was there, and of course, this wasn't anything the board directed. This is what Ray and Associates said they wanted them to do. They were kind of disappointed that they didn't have more of an opportunity to discuss. I've since talked to Mr. Chu, and he can arrange for them to have a meeting between now and, March 4th, or our next board meeting, or next time we're scheduled to discuss this, to give them the opportunity to have a more, detailed conversation about the candidates. Again, though, I don't think that solves the problem of whether or not, first we have to find out, as you suggested, which of the 7 would be able to meet the advertised job description by June 1st. Otherwise, I don't know, we might risk getting sued by people that would have applied, and we picked somebody that, that didn't have the qualification. And there was somebody else that said, well, you guys said you wanted only certified inspector general, so I didn't apply, so now you've left me out. So I don't know, is that a possibility that we could have liability if we do this?
Yes, I would caution the board to modify the qualifications that were in the advertised job description. No, I know, but that's one of the conversations on the table is just going forward. And I think you need to stick to the job description. You can't waive it unless you throw out the entire procedure and start all over again with a new job description.
Ms. McQuinn's been trying. I'm sorry, Ms. Burrell. Go ahead.
Hope I can remember. I think I can. Okay, that was rude. All right. So
I got thick skin. It's
can we hear at least which candidates out of the 7 meet our qualifications that we advertised? Our inspector general may be in that list.
So can you tell us which ones are certified inspector generals out of the 7?
So William Stern, we already mentioned.
Yep.
Well, this guy is. So.
Michael Hewitt.
Okay. It's Robert Bliss, I think.
And the question about Mr. Riyad Ali. The others have the CIGA, they have the CIA and the CIG. So, then you get into all these, which of those is the one that you're seeking legally, so.
Mr. Barbieri?
So
So you're saying that Ali, Hewitt, and Stern are the only three on the list.
And Bliss. Bliss has
And
it.
Bliss, yes,
Okay, and Bliss has the CIG certification now.
right. Holmgren is another one that does, but he hasn't been working since 2016. He's been retired, and he wants to come back into the world of work. So based on what he just informed me tonight, which I was unaware of, I'm not sure if he could get it, because he hasn't been working in this current calendar year, if you will. Is that my understanding correctly?
He's can be certified and not working, right, Mr. Chu? If, once you get the certification, there's no requirement that you continue, that you can take a break from work and still come back.
He
and-
has the CIGA,
Oh, well, that's,
so he doesn't have the inspector. So my understanding from tonight, what I learned was that if you haven't been working in the last year, then you're not eligible to sit for it, which I did not know that nuance.
The CIGA is not the same as CIG. It's an auditor as opposed to a manager.
No, I'm understanding that, but if he hasn't been working since 2016, then you're telling me he would not be eligible to get it, which is what Mrs. McQuinn's question was.
Well, that, I'm not the AIG, so I don't know how they determine whether prior year experience will qualify him to sit for the CIG. But CIGA and CIG is entirely two different categories there.
I'm with you. That's why I'm asking you this question.
I don't know, I cannot answer that.
Okay.
I want to ask a question. Can I ask a question, Mr. Bobby?
Mr. Shaw.
I have a question for Ms. Rico. And this is based upon what you said about the job description. When we wrote that job description, we said certified inspector general. Tonight, we find out there's 3 kinds of them. So which one of those is the definition that's in our job description?
I think that there is a designation called Certified Inspector General. That is the one that's in our job description.
All right, Mr. Bobby.
Okay.
I'm reading the job description, and it says Certified Internal Auditor Certificate.
Okay.
So it doesn't say any of the things we've been using as verbiage so far.
Look at number 2. The Inspector General shall hold at appointment a current certification as a certified Inspector General.
Number 2.
Gosh, it doesn't work.
I'm looking at Roman numeral 3 under 1. I beg your pardon. Or a Certified Internal Auditor Certificate, it says.
Mrs. Andrews.
Yeah. I liked Jamie, I still don't have her references, but I thought she had the certification. Could you check your documents and see? You didn't call her name.
Well, I was very high on Cindy Morgan Kim as well, but she doesn't have the license, but she's worked as an auditor.
Naz Berenzi.
That doesn't have the CPA nor the, has a certified inspector general, but not the A behind it. It's lacking, so.
She is a sitting inspector general. She's a sitting inspector.
She is a
general.
sitting inspector general, and she has this inspector general certificate.
What is that, the inspector general certificate?
That's the certification.
Dr. Robinson.
She has it.
Thank you.
Doctor.
Yeah, she had, at least it's on the last page of her resume. So it appears that we're going nowhere fast, in my humble opinion. I would suggest that we table this conversation until March 4th or whenever our next meeting is. Maybe Ray and Associates can go back and, as I said before, from what I inferred as a recommendation from legal, to ask all the candidates, can you be a certified IG by the start date, and ask for their references, share all that information with the board and the audit committee. The audit committee can have their special meeting. We can hear from them. But I also need to have a conversation about people who got screened out, because there's at least one in here that got screened out who has the certified inspector general auditor And it looked like other people that had that got screened in, and I'm just confused about what happened. So,
Of the 7, do you mean?
no, I'm talking about the ones, these are the ones who
Screened
got
out.
screened out,
see.
correct?
Yeah.
And so,
I don't know what pile you're looking at.
The book that
It's
you
the
gave
little
us
book
that has
thing
the
you
people
gave
in
us.
it that that were screened out by
Oh,
Brandon.
so those are the other 9 is what you're referencing?
Yes.
I gotcha. And your question?
okay, look,
Making a motion.
yeah, after I answer her.
Okay.
May I?
Yes.
So it appears to me that, is legal going to caution me not to say the name or anything like that? Okay. So John Cashman is a certified inspector general auditor. So in our prior meeting, I specifically stated that I wanted Ray and Associates to tell me why each person that got screened out. And so maybe that can be in the 2-week follow-up, okay? Because I need to know why you screened them out. Because my perusal of the documents, it's not clear to me. And so my motion is that we table this conversation until, is it March 4th? Our next meeting, March 4th, to allow Ray and Associates to ask each candidate if they, in writing, if they can be a certified IG by the expected start date for this position, to collect references from each of the candidates, and 3, provide this board with an explanation as to why each candidate who was screened out got screened out, provide all that information to not only this board, but to the audit committee, and allow our audit committee to have a special meeting to discuss these candidates. That's my motion.
Second.
Seconded by Mrs. Andrews. Ms. Brill, discussion?
Thank you. And the only request I would have, and I will support that, is that we not do this discussion at the end of a bunch of meetings, because my brain is fried. So I know we're not going to have as many meetings, but I'd prefer to do it earlier on in that day of meetings rather than later, because this is too important to have fried brain cells.
Ms. Bass, what's our schedule look like on the 4th of March?
You have several meetings before that would come, unless we move it up. We have expulsions, closed sessions, 2 workshops, leasing corp, and a special meeting prior to this, as the schedule stands right now.
So I think, Ms. Brill, you're...
Mr. Barbieri?
Yes, Mrs. Whitfield?
Thank you. Can I just add into that motion that we also include why candidates were screened in, as well as why they were screened out? Just a general information.
Okay. Accepted? Okay. All right, you got the...
Are we under discussion?
Yes.
So let me tell you what will work for my brain, is if there's a chart that has the criteria that you're looking at, which I guess is coming from the job description, and then each of the applicants, and check. So I can easily see then, person XYZ, check all the marks, and person ABC didn't have this particular thing.
And probably include a column in there that would be responsive to the elements of your motion,
Absolutely, but
like
references.
the letter and so forth, and, asking them, can they get the certification by June 1st?
Well, I would
want that
expect
in
to see
writing.
that in writing. I need
just
that
said in writing.
from them in writing that says yes.
I agree.
Okay.
Mr. Chu?
Just for clarification, that we have asked the audit committee to have a special meeting next Thursday, ideally to talk about the shortlist candidate. So that means the next Thursday meeting is not needed until you all come up with your shortlisting before the audit committee.
No. What the motion is that we take these 7 and find out if they qualify based on our description, and then we give those to the audit committee meeting and the board at the same time. So if Ray and Associates can get that done by next Thursday, then, but it's going to take, you're going to have to get it done a couple of days before next Thursday. So the audit committee members, they're all volunteers. They're going to have time to review all of this information. We can't just give it to them Thursday morning when they get to the audit
What do you
committee
want, at
meeting.
end of day, the 25th, the Tuesday?
When is the meeting that you can schedule?
Next Thursday, 27. Do you want the audit committee to talk about their merit before you guys discuss who are the good one or not as good? So it's okay for them to come up with some suggestion, but I was told that they should not rank them, should not rate them, but just to talk about the merits of each
Yeah,
candidate.
one thing that we should not do is we should not let them rank them, because they may rank 3 people that we didn't pick, and then it's going to look like, well, what was the point of them getting involved? We just need them to help us understand what they think would fit what we've advertised, and that they would work in this office.
Yeah, we will have a special meeting next Thursday to review all candidates, and the audit committee will be instructed to discuss the merits of each one of them, but not to compare one to each other. They like Mr. A, how good Mrs. B, how good she is, by separately, not to rank or compare.
And they should also tell us which ones they don't think, without getting into something that'll get, one of the concerns I know Ray and Associates had was that the audit committee members would say something that would stick with that candidate, so that candidate goes to a different jurisdiction and applies for a position, and now they say, well, Palm Beach County didn't want you based on all of this information, why would we want you? So they've already given us the 5 characteristics, which doesn't help us. They actually need to tell us, yeah, this person is not strong in the area where we think they should be to handle the job in this district, things like that, without saying that, that they're too old or whatever. What I mean? And they got to take guidance from the general counsel, like all of us did. We know what we can ask and what we can't ask in order not to get in trouble. So, but it's going to be only the ones that Ray and Associates tells us, based on Dr. Robinson's motion, that they can be qualified as an inspector general. They have that certification if we're going to pick June 1st, we should probably do that by motion tonight, so we know what the date is.
Yes.
Yeah, I figured that finger up there is for some reason.
So I hope that next Thursday that we'll have somebody from either HR
Could
and
council be at that meeting? Could your council be at that audit meeting to ensure that that is the process that's
Well,
followed?
the Inspector General has his own counsel, so certainly she will be there to make sure
Okay.
that doesn't happen.
Okay. Just for the integrity of the process.
Can we make sure that the results for the test that they take in March come back by June 1st before we pick that as the date?
Well, I'm sorry, Mrs. Whitfield, I didn't understand.
So if they do take the test in March, which, would be very, very soon, that the results would be back by June 1st if we choose that as the date that they need to have. I don't know that they may turn around that quickly. I just want to make sure before we choose that date.
Do you know, Mr. Chu, how long it takes?
I don't know, they may miss the window for the registration for the March exam.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah, it may change here in a minute, but the clerk would like to reread the motion into the record. Okay, go ahead, Mrs. Andrews.
I love putting that box down for reference, but I want the last place of employment reference. That's important to me. I have a whole lot of other people. I want to know what they did last.
Mrs. Bass, you want to read the motion into the record, please?
This is what I have. I just want to see if it's close. Motion to table this conversation until March 4th to allow Ray and Associates to ask each candidate in writing if they can obtain CIG certification by June 1st, get all candidate references, find out the reasons why candidates were either screened in or out as an acceptable candidate, and provide this information to both the board and the audit committee. Is that correct?
That's correct, but I also included in the motion the special meeting for the audit committee to deliberate around the candidates.
Is that what and schedule, Amy?
Yeah. And just to tweak it, Mrs. Andrews said the references must include the last place of employment.
Okay. Everybody clear on that motion? I'm not sure any of these people are going to qualify if it's too late for them to apply because they missed the registration for the March test, but we'll deal with it when it comes in. Is there any further discussion? Mrs. McQuinn?
He says with temerity. I just want to make sure, I think the answer is yes. we can all go and listen to the auditor committee, correct?
Yes.
Okay, thanks.
They're advertised it, more than one board member may be there. Okay, if there's no further discussion, we'll take a motion, a vote on the motion. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. So, ma'am, you need to make sure that the audit committee members are not going to be happy if they get this information on, the day before and they have to review all this. So,
Suggested the end of the day on February the 25th, but I heard no response.
okay, Mr. Chu, if they get the information to your office on the 25th, you can get it out quickly to the audit committee members so they'll have a
Yeah.
chance to
But
review it.
I cannot guarantee that they are happy to receive it 2 days ahead. Some of them really don't, kind of rush for them. These volunteers, they all have a profession. So, if they could get it sooner,
Well,
it'd be much
we're not
easier.
stuck on March 4th. We could move it out another, or we could get the 25th. The 27th is
Only 2
Yes.
days.
what,
The workshop on the IG policy
the 26th.
at 2 p.m.
And he's suggesting the audit committee meets on the 27th. So is the 27th a Thursday?
After the March 4th meeting, you have a special meeting for the IG policy on March 11th. On March 18th, you have another meeting like this, special meeting for for IG search.
Mr.
After
Chu,
the
can
board
can the audit committee meet before March 4th, but not on the 27th? Maybe it's not on a Thursday. Could they meet like the following Tuesday? So that gives them more time to review all this?
Yeah, we can do a polling tomorrow because we have a short timeline, supposed to be ready by March the 4th. That's why we push it down further. I think we could find out tomorrow.
Karen?
To that end, because I know some of us would like to attend that meeting and listen to it, but I know that I have a lot of appointments over the various days. We don't normally televise the audit committee, right? You record it, or is it normally?
They're audio recorded, yes.
It is, it's recorded.
Is it video
audio, or is it visual?
Video. It's video, and then
Video, okay.
usually they are available immediately after
Okay.
the meeting.
Okay, so as long as it's on video, and we have it available to us on the website, then whatever day you do would be perfect.
Okay. All right, so if you can still get it done by the 25th, that gives it, whatever date he's able to extend that meeting out, it gives the audit committee members more time to review the information?
We will do our best.
Before March the 4th meeting.
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely, before March 4th. So before we leave, one thing that I wanted to discuss with the board is the IG policy. So I'm going to read what I wrote so that I'm politically correct. As the board members know, I arranged a meeting of the department heads of Human Resources, School Police, Office of General Counsel, Office of Inspector General, to review, discuss, and address concerns that have been brought forward by board members as well as various employee and employee groups regarding our current IG policy. The discussions were robust and I think fruitful, and I appreciate everyone's participation and willingness to lean in and explore best practices. The discussions, however, did not result in consensus about the specifics of changes to be brought back to the board for further discussion and consideration. At this juncture, especially after tonight's meeting with all of this, the board's in the midst of the selection for the new IG, and I respectfully propose to my fellow board members that we table any discussions and consideration for changes to the IG policy until a new IG is hired and allow for that new leader to review, digest, and weigh in on the changes to the IG policy. I believe this would serve the board well and that we would hear from the new IG and perhaps get some fresh insight and practices from his or her experience. More importantly, it would allow the board to focus on the IG selection process, which we have before us. So if you all will agree.
So
yes.
moved.
So we have
I
a motion.
wholeheartedly agree, Mr. Barbieri.
Okay, great. So we have a motion by Mrs. Whitfield, seconded by Mrs. Andrews. Any discussion? All in favor? All opposed? Motion carries 7-0. So, Mr. Superintendent, the meetings that we've scheduled, Carol, the meetings we've scheduled for the IG policy, they can be removed, and maybe we can use that to fill in for this situation. All right? Yes, so we need a motion to adjourn the meeting. Motion by Mr. Shaw, seconded by Dr. Robinson. All in favor, all opposed, motion carries 7-0.